Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this is going to be a topic where I might ruffle some feathers. To be honest with you, I might ruffle some feathers, but to be honest, I don't care. This has to be said because boxing, unfortunately, it's as great of a sport as it is, and it's a fantastic sport. Um, it's a very tribal sport a lot of the times too, and for whatever reason, whether it be fighters or fans, people just can't appreciate fighters for being as great as they actually are. It's always got to be something about race, and recently, the most notable fighter who pulled the race card in the media is Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder. Basically coming out and saying that to sum it up, basically came out and saying that if he wasn't black, he would get more U.S. media respect. And before I get into what I feel or the facts of the matter, let's just get into what Wilder had to say. He said, I quote, the problem with America is we got media downing American fighters. We got analysts and so-called experts downing American fighters. You got former world champions that have made their mark in the sport, but I don't want to see the legacy, get passed, so they down American fighters. I never understood that, especially as a champion. You should want somebody to come and pass you. You should want someone to keep the sport alive and build it up. Even the champions don't want the legacy passed because they don't want to be forgotten. But if you did it right the first time, you'll never be forgotten. Casual fans come into boxing and listen to the so-called experts downing our fighters, but praise the foreigners. We adopt foreigners, but down our own. That's a huge problem. In other countries, they praise fighters. Then he goes on by saying, I quote, a lot of people don't want to pull the race card, but let's be real. I'm a realist. I'm a woke realist. I'm not brainwashed at all. I see what's going on. If I was every other ethnicity, any type of person that's not a black man, it would be different. If I was any other color but black, it would be different. End quote. So Deontay Wilder is clearly coming from the point of view of being a victim. He feels he's done enough to get more media respect that he feels that other fighters are getting over him. So let's start it off like this, man. Let's start it off like this. For all the talk of like boxing media and fans getting behind foreigners, why is it that guys like Lomachenko, Kovalev, Usyk, and all the other any other big name Russian fighter you can name, why haven't those guys become pay-per-view stars? Why aren't they pay-per-view stars? The only two people really making like real money as far as fighters go in boxing at the top level are Anthony Joshua and Canelo. One guy being a black Englishman and the other guy being a Mexican fighter. Okay, so with that being taken into account, that's more of a byproduct of just the fan base that fighters from those countries usually have behind them, and with those guys being good talents in their own right. So I don't get what Wilder's coming from, and the reason I don't get what Wilder's coming from because if you look at the past, right? If you look at the past of American heavyweights, you talk about the Riddick Boys, you talk about the Evander Holyfields, the Floyd Pattersons, the Muhammad Ali's, the Mike Tysons, just those guys. They were all superstars of the highest order, and the reason they were superstars of the highest order is because they were in big fights. All right. But more importantly, take the fights out of the equation for a second, all right? And I'm quoting my boy Sean Newton. Shouts out to Sean Newton. I had a chance to watch this video on this subject. Like a lot of times, it comes down to who these guys have in their teams, and I made it very clear of how I feel about Al Haymon. I think he came in with some decent intentions, like to try to as far as get the fighters paid. Like I'm not against getting the fighters paid, but there's no marketing and promotion involved with Al Haymon fighters. So with that being said, there's no marketing and promotion involved with Deontay Wilder. That's why if Deontay Wilder were to walk down the streets of Miami or New York or Chicago or LA, just some of the biggest cities in America, people would think he's a shooting guard that plays for some NBA team. And that's the reality of it. They would think he's a shooting guard that plays for some NBA team. And Wilder feels like he's done enough. But the fact of the matter is, in the ring, as far as record goes, yes, maybe he has done enough to get more respect. But the resume, I mean, the resume is piss poor. There's no way around it. The resume is piss poor. His two best wins is the first fight remains Tavern and Artur Spilka. That's where it begins and that's where it ends. And that's not a murderer's row of heavyweights he's fighting. And there really ain't a whole lot of top opponents out there for him to fight, but that's why you're not getting the recognition. It has nothing to do with a black thing. You know, a lot of times, and I have a problem with people of any ethnicity pulling the damn race card when they're not doing what it takes to be successful. Like, he's not in the ring by his record. Yes, he's knocking people out. But as far as I'm concerned, like, Deontay Wilder, and it's mainly the people behind them. Like, I think Deontay Wilder has done a decent job promoting himself on Instagram and things like that. But if you look at, like, the people out PBC, what is PBC doing for Deontay Wilder? Like are they trying to advance his career outside of the, you know, the walls of boxing, the realms of boxing? No. I mean, Al Haymon has this network TV deal with NBC and all these networks, but do we see Deontay Wilder or Keith Thurman or any other PBC star on a talk show where Al Haymon could probably, you know, has the plug to do that since he has a network deal? No. Do we see Deontay Wilder, any of these guys signing top endorsement deals so that these guys can be marketed globally, because boxing is a global sport? But like many other fighters, not just Deontay Wilder or Al Haymon fighters, but all across boxing, boxers don't take advantage of the fact that boxing is a global sport, and and there's not much endorsement money in boxing because, for one, there aren't a lot of fighters worth that kind of money, and if they are, they do things outside the ring to hinder them from doing that. Like, think about like Terrence Crawford. Think about Deontay Wilder. Think about maybe someone like trying to think who else is there. I mean, even like a Sergey Kovalev, right? Not that Sergey Kovalev is an ultra marketable fighter as far as his personality, but I'm saying, like, all these fighters have done things outside the ring that could be classified, that could keep them from getting endorsement deals. And with that being said, like, while they're starting fights with people's families, and Terrence Crawford and his friends beating up dudes at an auto body shop and stealing a car, and then, you know, Kovalev with the whole Adonis Stevenson thing, like, those are things that companies will look at, and that's why I'm not going to sign you. And these dudes, as a byproduct of that, are missing out on big opportunities to make themselves relevant, to be respected athletes, and to be known by people that beyond just the realms of boxing and the boxing community. So there's things that Wilder could do. There's things that Al Haymon could do. There's things that PBC could do. But the fact of the matter is, you're not more popular because you're black. The reason you're not more popular is because you haven't done dick as far as being a heavyweight. Yeah, you're knocking out guys that you're supposed to knock out, and you look sensational doing it. And I will say, speaking from experience, being at a Deontay Wilder fight, when you're there in person, it's fun to watch. And and I actually agree with him, he is someone that should be marketed more. But that's not why you're not more successful. The reason you're not more successful is because who you have behind you, and that someone behind you is Al Haymon. Al Haymon is ruining the careers of many fighters right now. Yeah. They might get one, maybe two big paydays if they're lucky. So, you know, God bless him for that. But aside from that, as far as making them the kind of stars that will transcend the sport, that will actually keep opportunities coming for them when they're done boxing, that ain't happening for Al Haymon fighters. It ain't happening even for like most top-ranked fighters. I mean, it has a bigger chance of happening for most top-ranked fighters because now they have the ESPN thing. But there's only two cash cows in boxing, and it's the only reason that they're, aside from the countries they come from, the only reason that they are where they're at as far as popularity. And I'm even going to throw Golovkin in that mix, because Golovkin has a good little fan base too. Golovkin, Canelo, Joshua, them three guys right there, the reason they are where they're at is because, for two of them, they have great built-in fan bases from countries that normally support boxing. And in the case of Golovkin, like, Golovkin's from Kazakhstan. Effing Kazakhstan, bro. Like, Kazakhstan what fan base, how many Kazakhstan natives are you seeing these Golovkin fights? It can't be a lot. You know, it can't be a lot. And they're not known for supporting boxing like that. So the reason Golovkin is where he's at is, for one, in the ring, he's been beaten up on, you know, he's had a long title reign, so he's been active, so he's been, you know, in the consciousness of boxing and sports fans. He's been very entertaining, knocking people out, and he's gotten the big fights that have been able to allow him to elevate his profile. And on top of that, his promoter, Tom Loeffler, has tapped into the fact that boxing is a global sport and that there's endorsement deals available for fighters who deserve it and for fighters who have the right people that can get them these deals. Hence the reason you see Golovkin getting a deal with Jordan Brand, getting a commercial with Apple, and that's been able to help him elevate his profile, and that's why you see him elevate to where he's elevated, and much the same for Canelo, and in some ways much the same for Joshua as well. So Deontay Wilder, he's just playing the race card, man. He's playing the victim. Bro, you're on your night, you're a sensational fighter. I think all of us wanted to see you fight better opposition, and if you won with Al Haymon, this would be a different story. It really would, because if it was Eddie Hearn or Tom Loeffler or just any other top level promoter, De La Hoya even, I know people are going to say, oh, well, De La Hoya and the race emails, all that stuff. I was like, if De La Hoya was this promoter, De La Hoya will be getting him more money. More people will know who Deontay Wilder is. It's a fact of the matter. More people will know who Deontay Wilder is if he was Oscar De La Hoya's heavyweight, because he is one of the few promoters in boxing that knows how to tap into the fact that boxing is a global sport and that there's endorsements ready for fighters who earn them and who aren't being idiots outside the ring. So that's just what it is. That's why Deontay Wilder is not more popular. And if the foreigners are so successful, I mean, the only quote-unquote foreigner, and he really isn't that much of a foreigner because he's from Mexico, is Canelo. That's the only foreigner that's really a cash cow that regularly fights in the States. Other than that, I don't see Kovalev or what's his name, Kovalev or Lomachenko or any of these guys. I don't see them in all these different endorsement deals and commercials. I don't see them transcending boxing like that. So cut the shit, man. Cut the BS. Just do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do. Get the Joshua fight. Another reason why I'm saying you should have went to England to fight Dillian White. It's not boxing's fault and the media's fault that you and Al Haymon and everybody behind you decided to turn out a $4 million payday to go fight Dillian White in the UK. And that would have been a fight. That would have been a fight where you could have raised your profile. You could have been more known. You could have actually enhanced your career. But no, you instead decide to fight Alabama. I mean, I know it's your hometown, so God bless you for bringing fights to your hometown. I actually respect that a lot because we don't get a lot of fights here in South Florida, and I wish we had a fighter that would do that. But regardless of that, you're fighting in Alabama so consistently. I mean, no, who the hell is in Alabama? Who the hell is going to see you in Alabama? You should be fighting in LA, New York. I mean, the fact that you're an American heavyweight who can punch like you can, you should be trying to be fighting in these major cities, New York, LA. What about Chicago? Chicago's a good fight town. Ain't nobody bringing fights to Chicago. There's an untapped boxing market there. What about Atlanta? Atlanta has an untapped boxing market there. I mean, there's boxing markets all over the damn country, and you ain't tapping into them. Neither is Al Haymon. So don't blame it on the media and everybody else for where you're at in your career. You're where you're at in your career because of you being signed with Al Haymon and you cherry picking. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. There's no two ways about it. You could be the most. If you were marketed more and you didn't whine and complain so much and you fought better fighters and the people behind you got you some opportunities where you can be marketed on a consistent basis, even when you're not fighting, to people who don't even watch boxing, to bring them into the sport, like you see in other sports like soccer and baseball and basketball and pretty much every other sport, you would be a star. You would be a star. But instead, you're where you're at, and Shannon Briggs has more followers than you on Instagram because of Al Haymon being your manager. So take it for what it's worth, but that's the cold hard truth. And I hope for Wilder's sake that he does get the big fights. I hope we get to see him in all the matches we want to see him in. And I you know what? I even take it a step further. I hope he performs well. I hope he does well. I wouldn't even be mad to see him beat Anthony Joshua because he does. I think with his character, his personality, he could be a big star. And I think boxing needs, in America at least, we need Deontay Wilder. But we're not going to sit here and listen to a bunch of bullshit of, oh, I'm not where I'm at because I'm black and all these foreigners. Well, let's just look at the foreign fight. Let's look at what some of the American fighters are doing and what the foreign fighters are doing. We look at Gervonta Davis. All right, look at Gervonta Davis. The dude is flat out ducking Lomachenko, and American fight fans are giving him a pass for that, which is complete bullshit. All right, the dude should be fighting the best. He should be fighting regularly against top opposition, and he should be showing the world that he is one of the best young talents in the sport consistently. But he ain't doing that. Floyd ain't promoting. Floyd, it's not like Floyd Mayweather, who you guys love and praise as a promoter, is doing a lot to afford these American fighters opportunities. So it's all across the board. It's not just an Al Haymon thing. It's a boxing thing in general. Most promoters are lazy. I call most of them parasites because that's what most of them are, and there's no two ways about it. But you got him. You got Keith Thurman, who fights one time a year. Who he's fighting one time a year, and even in his last couple fights, he hasn't looked that sensational. Then you go look at what these quote unquote foreigners are doing. Lomachenko has fought more top opposition in his first 10 fights than any fighter in the history of boxing. So you got him doing that. You got who else? We got I want to say Kovalev lost the award. Oh, that's another thing too. Like if the world was so racist, then why didn't Kovalev war the big super fight war Kovalev was? Why didn't that do a bigger rating? Why didn't that do more pay-per-view buys? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because Kovalev is not a big star, and neither was Ward, and neither one of them had the marketing and promotion to be one anyway, and neither one of them had the personality to be one anyway. Because Kovalev doesn't have the kind of personality that attracts people to boxing, nor does Ward. So it's not a black thing. It's not a white thing. It's either your career is being ran right or it's not being ran right. And Deontay Wilder, unfortunately, like many other PBC fighters that are ran by Al Haymon, who, by the way, is doing a crappy job at most of those guys' careers, you're one of them. And it's unfortunate because I think you should be more well-known. I think an American heavyweight who can punch like you do should be more popular than he is. But unfortunately, your career is being ran a certain way, and that's just what it is, man. So Wilder, because I know sometimes these fighters watch these videos. Wilder, Al Haymon, PBC, anybody from that neck of the woods. If you guys see this video, I hope and pray that you help this man's career grow. I wish you nothing but the best, but we're not gonna fall for the bullshit. You are where you are because of the fact that you're fighting bums, and you haven't fought a top level fighter. You won't even fight a Brian Jennings, okay? So let's cut the shit.